Okay, hey everyone. So we're now on day 6, which allows us to wrap up the first section of 90 Days of DevOps. And if you've been following along, you know what I'm doing. I've basically created a project at the start of 2022, which was focused on my own learning journey around DevOps and the process and principles, but also getting hands-on with some tools to allow us to attack that DevOps lifecycle, understand that DevOps lifecycle. So to wrap things up here, I wanted to talk about some actual real life scenarios out there in the wild. And granted, these are big companies, Amazon, and I'm sure Netflix is in there probably as well. Yeah, Etsy. And I think it's very hard to look at those three examples and liken that to what we're doing on a day-to-day basis, maybe within our own business. But I think it's important, and I feel like we're in a point of the DevOps, the platform engineering. We're at that point now where we can actually see the benefit and why we're doing this, even if you're not a software development house. Okay, so day 6. So DevOps, the real stories. DevOps to begin with was seen to be out of reach for a lot of us, as we didn't have companies like Netflix or a Fortune 500 company practicing it. But I think that now it's beginning to sway into the normal as businesses start adopting a DevOps practice. Exactly what I just said. It's like I just read it. But this was a year ago, more than 18 months ago, and I still think this is true. I'm speaking to more and more people that have adopted this, whether it's a dedicated DevOps team or whether it's an operations team with a DevOps mindset is clear. So you will see from the below references that there are a lot of different industries and verticals using DevOps and hence having a huge positive effect on their business objectives. The overarching benefit here is that DevOps, if done correctly, should help improve your business's speed and quality of software development. I wanted to take this day to look at successful companies that have adopted a DevOps practice and share some resources around this. This will be a great opportunity for the community to dive in and help here. Have you adopted a DevOps culture in your business? Has it been successful? I mentioned Netflix above and we'll touch on them again as it is a very good model and quite advanced compared to what we generally see today. But I'll also mention some other big brands that are succeeding at this. So my big takeaway there, and I don't believe that we've had any PRs on this, if you have adopted a DevOps mindset or a DevOps principle within your business, then let us know. Even if it's just a small aspect of DevOps, just bringing infrastructure as code into your workflow would be a good story to hear. That's another great point to the 2024 release of 90 Days of DevOps. That's going to be, we're going to bring 90 community sessions in, and there's a call for papers out there as well. I want to hear the story. I don't really care about hearing from Amazon, Netflix. We've seen sessions for the last 10 years on that. I want to hear sessions about how you've adopted DevOps within your business. Okay, so Amazon, what did Amazon do? So in 2010, so 13 years ago from today, Amazon moved their physical server footprint to the AWS, the Amazon Web Services Cloud. This allowed them to save resources by scaling capacity up and down in very small increments. We also know that AWS went on to generate high revenue itself whilst running Amazon's retail branch. That is very true throughout the pandemic. I don't think I had a day go by without something turning up from Amazon. Amazon adopted in 2011, according to the link below, a continued deployment process where their developers could deploy code whenever they wanted and to whichever servers they needed to. This enabled Amazon to achieve deploying new software to production servers at an average of 11.6 seconds. This is why it's not new. I know it's Amazon, and I know no one really gets close to that, especially who's probably watching this, and I know we're nowhere near this as well. But the benefits, the speed of return is incredible. So this one's I've learned more about Netflix over the last couple of months because I watched another guy on YouTube called the Primogen. He works for Netflix, but he does some amazing takes, and he actually gave me a good idea to do this kind of walk and talk through. But he's a software developer at Netflix. So who doesn't use Netflix? It's a high quality streaming service, and personally speaking, has a great user experience. I think that's still fair today. Why is it that user experience is so great? Well, the ability to deliver a service with no personal recollection of glitches requires speed, flexibility, and attention to quality. Netflix developers can automatically build pieces of code into deployable web images without relying on IT operations. As the images are updated, they are integrated into Netflix's infrastructure using a custom-built web-based platform. Continuous monitoring is in place so that if the deployment of the images fails, the new images are rolled back and traffic is rerouted back to the previous version. There is a great talk listed below that goes into more about the do's and don'ts that Netflix lives and dies by within their teams. That's another thing to add. So down here, it's not just me reading these out. I actually went through and used these resources to go and learn more about, and then just took like a paragraph to say this is what they did. Etsy. So as with many of us, with many companies, there was a real struggle around slow and painful deployments. In the same vein, we might have also experienced working in companies that have lots of silos and teams that are not working well together. From what I can make out by reading about Amazon and Netflix is that Etsy might have adopted letting developers deploy their code around the end of 2009, which might have been even before the other two. That's quite interesting when you think about Etsy. Size of Etsy, maybe not today, but again, an interesting take. An interesting takeaway I read here was that they they realized that when developers feel responsible for deployment, they also would take responsibility for application performance, uptime, and other goals. Very interesting. A learning culture is a key part of DevOps. Even failure can be a success if lessons are learned. Not sure where that quote came from, but it kind of makes sense. It does, still. I've added some other stories where DevOps has changed the game within some of these massively successful companies. So yeah, we've got a link to Netflix, to different use cases, if that still works, from 2021. Let's just see. Yeah, we've still got that. There's a few in there. Okay, so as we round out, so we've done day 6. This is the 6th video, maybe the 7th, but this really, the last few days, looking at DevOps as like the big triangle, the big picture. So DevOps is a combination of development and operations that allows a single team to manage the whole application development lifecycle, which consists of development, testing, deployment, and operations. The main focus and aim of DevOps are to shorten the development lifecycle while delivering features, fixes, and functionality frequently in close alignment with business objectives. DevOps is a software development approach through which software can be delivered and developed reliably and quickly. You may also see this referenced as continuous development, testing, deployment, and monitoring. If you made it this far, then you will know if this is where you want to be or not. I say that for both this project, but equally these videos that we're creating as well. Day 7, we'll be diving into a programming language. I'm not aiming to be a developer, but I want to be able to understand what the developers are doing. Can we achieve that in a week? Probably not. But if we spend 7 days or 7 hours learning something, we are going to know more than when we started. And I think that's a case in point to the whole project. You are not going to be able to go through this whole thing, get hands-on, learn the big pictures, and then just go and apply and be a DevOps engineer. That wasn't the premise. In fact, the premise was just start out as my own notes, so I'd learn as I'm writing stuff down. You'll see that on the other videos. But if we spend 7 hours on something specific, like a programming language, you're going to hopefully know a little bit more than when you first started. So that's the key part to it. And I think with that, we'll close this one out. But let me know what you think. Last 6 days in, I'm going to publish all of these videos, and hopefully they're useful. Some people like reading blogs like this, and that's why we see the amount of stars that we have on the GitHub repo. But the amount of feedback was, I would love for you to actually give your perspective, almost like a read through of these days. So let me know what you think, whether the quality, like, do you even need to see my face down here? I'm not generally looking at the camera. I'm generally reading from a screen. Do you need to see me? Does it make any difference? What's the audio like? What's the quality like? Can you see everything? Yeah, let me know. Like, is it useful? And with that, thanks everyone, and I'll see you in the next one.